will you get through another world, a lesser world, a world not your own? Are you who they said you were?
If you put a person under the men's telescope, all his memories showed up on a sort of moving picture screen.
And I know what I know, and you're not gonna take it. I'm not going to lie or argue. Not who I knew before. They've changed. Are they another species? Something we don't know. They're not smart. They're dangerous. Will they hurt us? It's like I woke up 100 million light years away. Now surrounded by holograms. They're stupid. They're stupid. Everything is dumb now. What do I know? What do I know? What do we know? How do we? I know you're not you anymore. You're not you anymore. You're not you anymore. Greetings in the name of the Most High. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the most unusual things are happening, and seemingly out of the blue. And I just started thinking about antimatter and the idea that there could be such a thing as uncreation as well as creation. You know, like you could have the Bikini Island test for nukes, and then you could say, okay, watch this. And then the next thing you know, the island disappears. You know, the building disappears, the country disappears, the planet disappears, the moon disappears. That'd be quite a weapon in the wrong hands, wouldn't it? An antimatter device that could actually pull apart molecules into destabilization and then completely disconnected. And why would I be dreaming about things like? Because I was writing a story and trying to find a kind of a hook to the story, and it seems like the real push right now. You know how things sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. So the real push right now, I think, is for antimatter. And I think there are some devices that have the ability to, for example, by using frequencies, melt buildings rather than using a nuke that just is kind of like a big dynamite piece, a big, right? It releases a lot of energy. It knocks everything down. It radiates the sky. It's real messy. It's very inelegant. It's nothing like where the research is today. Okay, it's a poor player. It's a little fire. It's like a firecracker show versus a giant firework, compared to what there is today. But they dare not say anything to you about what there is today because some of these things they're not talked about. And they're not talked about in conspiracy or truther media either. They're hinted at now and again. Yeah, but that's all that anyone can do because of the lack of information. And the lack of information is there because people are simply eliminated from society that talk about that if they had solid information as to how an anti matter weapon would work and what would be required mathematically and formulaically, to produce such a weapon. And that person would not last 2 seconds without being, hauled off somewhere. Probably, used for their intellect and put to work somewhere else on some other exotic weapons. So this is it's an issue because I noticed that in a lot of bleed through memories, like, sometimes when you get tired, you're aware that you're dreaming and that you're part of another dream. And it's coming and going because you're tired and you're kind of drifting in and out of a little bit of sleep. So you're aware of these two worlds, one where there's the dream world going on, which is almost lucid, where you exist and something is happening. And then you have this one. And then you have, and if that's possible, then an infinite number of parallel situations you could be in. And and be a full life in each one. And so therefore, who is pulling the strings? What is, are people victims? And the answer is no, we are not victims of this earth or this simulation. You're trapped here. We are not trapped here against our will. And please remind me if I say something different in the future, because I might. But because it feels like we're trapped. But we're not trapped here against our will. We are our will. We are basically we are God, in the sense that we are one. And if we are one, God is not separate from one. God is one. So we are one as God is one. John 17, look it up. Look it up, you'll see I'm right. So going from that formula that we are one with God, then the will of God in creating of anything would be with our consent and approval and participation. And there is no our, we are just one thing. So when something is created, it's a single force. And when something is uncreated, it's a single force as well. But because we are in so many different parallel universes, we have so many lives going on concurrently. So I think that the thing to focus on isn't reincarnation, but it's multiple incarnation. And then the awareness of that comes in dreams, and then some hints of do we have, for example, a wiped brain from past experiences? Well, there is no past experience, so no, there would not be no wiped brain. There's no wiped brain. There's no amnesia because there's no past. So that's the end of that argument. Anything else you'd like to go through? But you'd like to get off this, wheel, this adventure, and go where and be where in a world of perhaps just an energy field or a frequency. Well, that's what we really are anyway, at the end of the day. So you're already there. So how do you access that kind of power to make you feel not powerless? Well, the first thing you have to understand is we have to stop calling ourselves limited prisoners against our will on a prison planet, which I know I say that all the time. I'm evolving. I'm progressing. We are not passive prisoners in the matrix. We are not in the matrix against our will. We are not subject to some architect who is controlling the whole situation for the purpose of sucking off the trauma in order to feed the archons of the universe, or the evil jinn, or the demons, or whatever else it is. We are not subject to demons ultimately, whether we are conscious of it or not. All demons are defeated by the nature of who we are. Who we are is the defeat of demons. Existence is the defeat of demons. There is no demon that can defeat you. You don't need to do anything. You just need to exist. You don't need to know anything. You just need to exist. And that existence is anathema to, demon, which is, you have to admit, unconstructed in this world of constructed things and molecules. Demons are unconstructed, and sometimes they'll push through and possess a thing or try to find a form. But usually they're formless. And, they get thrown around by people's intentions of evil, and people get mad at each other and throw things at each other, and in the way of demonic energy, but it can't last. What witches don't understand about witch spells, but they just don't accept it, is that a lot of these spells that are cast, and curses that are cast especially, never last. They always wear out, because the nature of the being is not to, otherwise that being would be completely possessed in and out of life. In other words, from the very beginning to the end, no chance of recovery, or it doesn't last. And that's it. It doesn't last. I've heard many people say they've defeated witchcraft by working a little harder, staying a little more focused, realizing there's opposition, and knowing they've got to really, double down on their intention. And that seems to defeat it. I don't know. To me, it's really not a matter of defeating. It's just like illness, spells and witchcraft and all these things. These sort of quantum darts and arrows are really part and parcel of matter and antimatter, and the play between the two, the antipathy between the two. So there would be forces against anything that is alive, whether it be, Bambi, or a human, or a baby, or an old man. You're going to have opposition to your existence no matter what. Then when it becomes very amplified, you have to say, say for like targeted individuals, why would that be? And that is a collective attack, which, by the way, cannot defeat you. unless you let it. And that is based on the fact that you, for whatever reason, you're not going to conform to the mass public consciousness and the agreed upon secret society that is the real world, and bubbling underneath this one, which is completely depraved. So you're not going to accept depravity. You're not going to, if they try to initiate you into something, you would say, "What's that?" You wouldn't know what it is because you're pure-hearted, and so it wouldn't happen to you. But that means that the next step would be to target you for elimination, because they have to have everybody with their consent and free will on the same page. Now, you can also consciously rebel and say, "No, I don't want that," and go fuck yourselves. And then that will bring about, then you will realize, oh, I better accept the fact that I'm not going to go so high in this world. I better accept the fact that I may not be winning the awards or the trophies. I better accept the fact that I may not be accepted in this world. I may have to accept the fact that through no fault of my own, and though I work very hard, I will be ignored. No matter how, it doesn't really matter what the product is, what I produce. It's the nature of the spiritual reality, to where the other guy who conforms will say, "Hey, look at me. All you need is love. I just, one day I was a loser. The next day I was a winner, and it's just a matter of, it's your choice." And it's like, yeah, well, if you want to give up on existence, I suppose, if you want to be a non-person, then you could conform to the world and be like the others, and they're all, if you will, they're all to be treated as Esau. Now, Esau was hated of God. God actually hates, so he hates Esau. And Esau, in the book of Obadiah, it suggested that Esau is uncreated, as if he never was. And I'm here to say, I want to take it a little further and say, the moment that you consent to what they call death, so your initiation is your death. And they all say, we're the Grateful Dead. Remember, like the band, the Grateful Dead. That's what they mean by that. That's exactly what they mean, which no one will tell you. I told you, but I told you, right? I told you. Because they're afraid of losing their paycheck, because they're afraid of losing their place in line, because they're afraid of losing their place. And they say, "Well, have you seen to repeat this story over and over?" And I say, "No, there is no other story. It's to be or not to be. That is the question." And then if you want to elaborate on Shakespeare's word in Hamlet, it would be, well, let's take the words of from the Hebrew in the book of Ezekiel. It would be to blossom, and what happens to blossoms when you blossom, and then the blossoms fall, and they turn color, and they die. Okay, so to blossom and die, or to live is eternal, and to realize that this fight here on earth, that you're not here to be celebrated. You're not here to win. I've won lots of races and lots of contests and things like that, and they're just very temporary. Those victories are very temporary. They don't really mean much to me anymore. I've aspired to be nothing. I have aspired to, and even if I participate in a film festival where there's a winner, you know what I mean? Let's say I win something. It doesn't mean anything. Where when I was younger, it would have meant something. That would have been something. And now that I'm older and have gone through more process, I realize it doesn't mean anything. There is no future. This is great for my future. What future? What future are we talking about? There's no such thing as a future. There's no such thing as a winner. Let's get to this winning or losing. So in this world, there is no such thing as a winner, and there is no such thing as a loser. There is no such thing as time, and there is no such thing really as space. So it's a confabulation to um, at times it just looks like one big loyalty test to me. But it's no big deal. In other words, it's okay for you to compete in the 1 mile run or the 100-yard dash or the fashion icon of the week or the best the Pulitzer Prize or the best janitor on earth or whatever it is. It's okay. It's there's nothing wrong. There's no one is saying don't do it, but just realize who you are, what you are, where you are, when you are at that moment, and realize that there's no such thing as winning. There's if anything, the winners garner a bunch of jealousy and curses thrown at them, right? Because people hate to see somebody else getting ahead of them, or they perceive that, even if you're not really competing. And then I have also found that sometimes the people that don't, I mean, it's like I remember Mickey Rooney, the little actor Mickey Rooney, and he, where did I hear him say this? It must have been at the racetrack, and he said something to the effect of the key to why has he had such a famous acting career when he's like 5 foot tall, kind of doesn't have all the attributes of the leading man. How could he be so successful at acting, to have been a millionaire? And then later on, people stole his fortune. It was really unfortunate as he got older. And he said, the answer is not looking. And I thought about that for a few years. I didn't quite understand what he meant by that. So I thought about it in a Zen way for a while, not looking and then having. But really, it's the idea of, I think, the kind of success that comes when you realize who you are, what this is, where you are, and that it does no good to worry. It does no good to pit yourself against somebody else or whatever. It's you go through the life and you go through these forms of proposed competition and different things. People compete for roles in movies and television, and sometimes oddly people that are not predicted to win anything get the role. And so there is, and it's just like who becomes a rock star. There's no rhyme or reason to it. One becomes one, and the guy that's even more qualified, he's passed over. But there is one kind of a key to all this, and that's knowing that there is no such thing as the competition to be a rock star. There is no such thing as a winner. There is no such thing as winning the role. There are no roles. And so when you realize what it is, that all the externalities are created forms for us to walk into, but it's not us. We are the creators of the forms. We create all this, and to create a simulation so that we can run and jump and compare ourselves to others when we're all the same, one. Which when that's really understood, then a person might go from, quote, losing, which is irrelevant, to winning, but there's no need to track it because it's simply a function of being in a certain frequency at a certain time in a certain place. And it's not something that what's great about it is it's not something you can configure or that you can control. It's something that's seemingly random. I got chosen for this part. I got chosen to do this. I was chosen to do that. Somebody reached out to me to sing the national anthem at the ball game or whatever. I didn't seek anything. I just was, how many times have you heard? I just was lucky. I don't know why I wound up having this great career. So many people were more qualified than me, and I sometimes feel guilty that I wound up being, the one on top. Well, the answer is you're not on top. The one on top is the one on the bottom. The one on the bottom is the one on top, and also then vice versa, and any measurement in between. This is not something that it's presented to us, but it's what I would say if I were training an Olympic athlete. Let's say I were the coach, and a lot of it is head training, right? It's all up here. It's not being psyched out. And they'll tell you that even winning football games, it's all up here, and it's all up here with your teammates. So I wouldn't call it the Zen of winning. But what I would say is that the worry, attachment, lack of sleep, anxiety about a thing will make sure that that thing is never realized or is pushed away so that it's not achievable. Sometimes it is with all that, but usually not. And a lot of times, again, you hear the story of somebody that didn't look for something that found it. They didn't really want, they wanted to be a musician, but then they wound up being a leading man in Hollywood and won an Academy Award. And it's just the oddest thing because they weren't looking for it. They were trying to do something else. And so the joy of doing things to me is like the joy of dancing. We're dancing people. We dance around in the rain and in the wind, and we love nature, and we love seeing the animals chase each other and frolic around, and we like to frolic around, and all of these contests that we set up for ourselves and all of these measurements, we have no capability of winning because we created them. We can't win what we created because it's us. The winner and the loser are both us. The winner, the loser, and the mediocre, all of us. There is no scale. There is no, well, I did better this time. I got 2 points better. And I'll train harder next time and I'll get it. And you'll see. And most people that take on that attitude do not become Rocky. You know what I mean? They don't win the fight. They worry themselves and they don't quite make it, and they maybe have a little chip on their shoulder when they're adults, and that comes out when they're drinking, and people just don't want to be around that sort of thing. I could have been a contender, that sort of attitude. And so lately I've been, realizing that the right attitude is not to win. It's really to have the joy of existence, knowing that we are, that we are responsible for our creation, for our existence. We are co-creators in a sense with the Almighty God. We are one, in Christ. And so Christ is us. We are delivered. And isn't that great? We should tell other people about it so they can be delivered. But I guarantee you, in a church, you'll never hear anything like what I just told you. But if you did, I'd stick with that church because they're trying to help you. A lot of times we tell people how to win. Like I remember Sylvester Stallone, right? He's the ultimate example of the fight hard, win. And I guess Trump, whatever. And nothing wrong with fighting hard. Nothing wrong with training hard. But there is something wrong with assessments, personal assessments. The idea that you're, and I told a young friend, I said, a young screenwriter friend, I said, in my youth, I just had an inferiority complex, regarding writing and all that stuff. I just always felt inferior. He goes, we all feel that way. I'm like, and I just started thinking to myself, and when I finally got some things done, where people approved of my writing and I was able to produce something that got, filmed, I wasn't thinking about anything. I wasn't trying to get the job. I wasn't trying to do anything. I was just, that to me, the whole writing notion was a very romantic notion, to sit there with a problem of a story and develop it and see the characters and not even be affected by it to where you start, people, like they say that Val Kilmer, may he rest in peace, when he played Jim Morrison, he had to go to therapy afterwards to come down off of it because he became so much the character. And so with a screenwriter, that's even more the case. You become all the characters and you can get really psychologically fucked up. I mean, seriously fucked up, which is what I wanted to do because it was preferable to my constant depression and inferiority complex of just being in the world and feeling like I didn't fit or didn't belong. And of course I didn't. And so that just got amplified by the fact that there was competition and people wanted to get a deal and this and that. I had to separate from all of them, especially writing workshops and stuff where everybody is really cutthroat in there. They don't want you to succeed, right? They want to succeed. They want you to fail. And they succeed to the extent that you fail. They set up all these kind of scenarios in their heads when actually that's the opposite of freedom. I was born to be free. And the fact that I was a misfit in the world or, falling into the artist category or even the terrorist category or whatever, the disruptor category, the I won't take any bullshit category or the calling out truth as I see it rather than, oh, I got the nod and the signal. We're supposed to be quiet about that. I see. Yeah, okay, play the game. Okay, I get it. What are we hiding? It seems that we're not just hiding, little sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's a little deeper than that, isn't it? And it's remember to let her under your skin, and then you can begin to feel better, right? Better. Hey, Jude. Yeah. Well, what do you think they're talking about there? Not the COVID jab, I assure you. Something worse. And then, what happens to people is that as they begin to see the world for what it is, from the position of sovereignty and not being beholden to slavery or a robot, is to develop a compassion for people because you don't wonder if they're on the wrong, they're on the wrong path and they're headed toward great pain and suffering and they're causing great pain and suffering to their children, to themselves, to their parents, to their community. And you want to tell them, hey, it's not like that. It's not real, buddy. You got me, buddy? It's not real. Okay? It's not, none of this is real. And so what is real? And that is, what is real is being, and I hate to put a cliche on, but here I'm going to do it because it's popular right now. The lexicon of our civilization, to be authentic. Mean to be the you that is just you unabashed without fear. But since 99% of the people live in fear, it's hard to apply since there are almost no authentic people. Authentic, when I think of authentic, I think of, sometimes I think of a schizophrenic mental patient as being authentic. Mm-hmm. Being the fulfillment of all that we consider to be great, and yet treated as a freak, as a social pariah, as a negative. And so you see our consciousness is flipped around to where we believe that the what we created for competition, for because our basic way is to align ourselves with other people and then compare, right? And then there's also politics involved, and it's a road to nowhere because number one, it's not real. Number two, it's a complete waste of time. It has nothing to do with developing the soul to go to God, to be aligned with Creator, to be aligned with truth, to be real. That kind of thing is, playing a child's game in a, a little, game board, a child's game. And considering that if you win at Monopoly or something like that, that you really won something when it's all fake and it's all play money. None of it's real. None of it counts. Your Heisman Trophy doesn't count. Your Academy Award doesn't count. Your, reflections of what you've done and, beating the other guy in a fair competition. There's no such thing as fair competition because you are a subjective truth, meaning you are an omnipotent, potentially omnipotent truth, meaning there is no competitor against you. It's just you. It's only you. So if you have an Academy Award, you go, hey, look, I beat myself and I won. Don't I feel good? Look, we killed all those people in Ukraine. We won. Or in Gaza or in Israel or whatever the enemy is, or in South Africa, whatever. And we won. We won. When there is no we, there's only you. There's only me. And I know that sounds a bit glib, but it's supposed to. Glib meaning an obvious, shallow truth. Glib has a portion of truth without being completely true. I remember I wrote one of my reviews on the Dark Side of Society review of the movie, the doc that's coming out, and they said that there's mixed reviews because there seems to be a problem with the veracity of Mr. Daniels' testimony. It's like, I didn't give testimony. I talked about what happened to me and how I dealt with it to become a writer. That was the idea. And how I ended up writing, the first draft of the Screenplay Society, and it got picked up and then collaborated on by Rick and Brian Houston and Scream Matt George, and eventually became this cult classic. Well, that, and where the inspiration began, and that was the idea. But see, they're just so quick to put down anything true. And it's not that there was, the accusation of pedophilia or organized satanic abuse, organized rituals, put it that way. I don't think that most people would call them satanic ritual abuse, because when people think satanic ritual, they think Anton LaVey. And you know what I mean? Cut the heart out and eat it. That's not really exactly the human sacrifice aspect is right, but it's more like the plane crashes. Who's on the plane? Satanic ritual abuse. Oh, how do you get there from there? Well, you'd have to understand. And I don't think you're ready for that yet. And why should you be? If it didn't happen to you, then, if you didn't know about it, then mazel tov, go on with your life. Don't pay it another bit of attention. But veracity with Mr. Daniels' testimony is the reason, and it's because anything that points to anything like that, they've been very careful to put out, satanic panic, and it was all made up by some woman in Canada who wrote a book, and everybody suddenly was having dreams of being ritually abused, and it was all debunked. And so they have to say it's debunked, and the reason why is because they're covering up mass, the pedophile network that runs the world, and mass trafficking, and also all the bad shit that goes with Satanism and wars and rumors of wars and murders and and all the totally depraved things that they don't want you to know about, that are part and parcel with joining the world system, with being somebody, i.e., you have to consent to all that. That's what it means to be conformed, to consent, to use your free will to consent to become one of them. And when you become one of them, you are no longer human or capable of authenticity, and therefore you don't live. And they call you the dead, and that's what you are. You're the dead. Well, don't get offended with me calling you the dead. That's what you call yourself. You call yourselves the dead, not me. I'm just observing. But so they say that that I'm rattling on with no proof and all that, and I don't have proof. I never told anyone to believe what I said. I just said, this is my process, and this is how I arrived at this conclusion. This is how I ended up writing the screenplay. That's all I was talking about. As far as what they did to me and how they ruined my life, from a normal life, which I don't really care about at this point, because I don't want to have a normal life. I don't want to join a fraternity and go to a law school and then join a secret society and then being a mover and shaker of this world. No, thank you. Okay. No, thank you. So, dodged a big bullet there. But there's antipathy between, they don't want the truth. They don't want people to understand that the military industrial complex is the depravity, the club of sin, the club of Rome, the Illuminati, the Nazis, the Tool Society, the Golden Dawn, Madame Blavatsky, and all the rest of them. It all ends up being in one place. Child abuse and child sacrifice. Well, what else could it be? What else would it be if you want to desecrate the beautiful thing that God made? Okay, and so that's the story. I mean, it's actually almost boring. It is what it is. But so when they I don't know. I did my best. It wasn't my idea to do this story. It was we have a producer, and Loris, who I told my story to. Remember when we were doing Girl Next, I told it to him in the cafeteria of the soundstage we were using, and then later on he said, why don't we do this? And so we did, and I don't know what to think about it. I know that my story hasn't changed ever. So I've always said the same things that I struggled with and the trauma that I had, and I had to get over it. And I went back to therapy to cope with certain things and to remain free, being that is free of worry, free of fear. And the therapist just said, you're like one of the most traumatized individuals I've ever seen. And I said, I'm just gonna, keep going. What else can I do? I can't get those years back. And the funny thing about me is all this happened. I'm talking about the movie now, Dark Side of Society. So that'll be out in May 13th. And, take a look at it and see it. And if you want to attack it, please don't talk to me. And with that, I bid you shalom, and I will be back later. cross those fingers.